you and your loved ones a really very happy new year 2022. I'm sending you a lot of warmth, good wishes and love your way. And I'm hoping that this year turns out to be the best reading year for you guys. Hey guys, I'm Sikalpita and you're watching bookGeeks India, which is a channel where I make book related videos. In this video, I bring to you my December reading wrap up. Now I know I'm supposed to make a lot more videos, especially now that the year 2021 has ended, and I'm supposed to talk about all the books that I read in 2021, all the wonderful books, the best thrillers, the best fiction, the best historical fiction, and a lot more things. But I promise that I will definitely do that. But before that, I want to do a December reading wrap up. Doing this video actually helps me a lot because it's like a document, it's like a digital document of all the reading that I've done. And I therefore decided that I'm going to start this year with this video in mind. Now, when it comes to 2021, I didn't have like that great a reading year. But when it comes to December, I was really happy with the reading that I had done. I read a total of 11 books, and out of these 11 books, 7 were my picks, the choices that I read, the books that I wanted to read, whereas 4 were paid projects. Now, these are books that are sent to me by authors, by publishers, PR agencies and media companies because they want me to read these books and review these books and critique these books and also talk about these books on my channel, on my platforms, on my Instagram, on my blog. Just to be clear, these are projects that I do take because I need to sustain myself as an individual. Also guys, out of the 11 books that I read, 7 were hard copies or physical copies and 4 were audiobooks. Now 3 of these were on Storytel and 1 was on Audible. I do have a subscription of both these platforms. So I'm going to be talking about the books in an ascending order. So the worst or the least favorite book comes first and the best book comes in the last. And so here I begin. Book number 1 is a book that I picked up on my Kindle. It was a paid project. So this is Shankaracharya Spilling Holy Blood by Anuj Tikku. Now this is a book which tells you the story of this young man who rises to a lot of fame, authority and power, a position of power, and he goes on to become the head of an institution, a religious institution. But when he tries to change this institution, he wants to bring reforms into this institution. He faces a lot of obstacles, enemies and hurdles in his way, and this is basically his story and also the story of the reforms that he wants to bring, the kind of politics that happens in this organization. I gave this book 1 star. Why? I'll tell you. The editing was pathetic, like every single sentence had an editing mistake, and also there was no story, there were no characters, there was literally no writing whatsoever. Quickly moving on, the next book that I read is Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Good News by Meghna Pan. Now this is a book that I picked up on Audible. Now if you guys are familiar with Audible, you know that in addition to the monthly credit that you get, there's also a plus catalog. Now this catalog has a number of books that you can access to at the same price, so it doesn't cost you anything extra, and this is exactly where I found this book. Quite honestly, it was the cover and also the blurb that excited me. So this is the story of this 34-year-old divorcee middle class woman called Laddu. Now Laddu lives in Rishikesh, which is again a very small town, so your business is everybody's business and stuff like that. Now, Laddu has this one goal in life. She wants to get pregnant and be a mother and experience the joys of motherhood. Now, when she discovers that her eggs are drying up and she's losing her fertility, she decides to take a very drastic measure. And what she does, she goes for a sperm donor. Now, this is something which creates quite a ruckus in her family and amidst the people that she knows. And then everybody starts shaming her and ridiculing her, and everybody's like, you know, she's done something very scandalous and something very outrageous. Now, this story is basically Laddu's fight for her choice, for her freedom, and what she deems is correct. Now, while the premise is very interesting and a very relevant, socially relevant subject, but the writing is like at the most mediocre. It was a simple one-time read, and I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is this one, The Spy by Paulo Coelho. Now, this is a book that I remember buying almost 4 or 5 years ago. I think my daughter was just born, or she was very tiny. I had picked it up back then, but I just couldn't bring myself to read it. I don't know why that is. Now, honest bookworm confession, I have never ever read a Paulo Coelho before. So this is something new for me, and I was just waiting to be overwhelmed by it, but sadly it actually was underwhelming. Now let me tell you, it's a very short read. It doesn't take you a long time, but the way it's written, it just didn't sit well with me. Now this is basically a historical fiction, given that it's about a very famous woman, Mata Hari, who was a very enigmatic figure, but even then this book was like at the best a mediocre read for me. And I gave it 3 stars because I did not like what I read. And this book really had so much more potential. The story had so much more potential, but it disappointed me. Now you will find some rare photos of Mata Hari, like the real person, and that's the only saving grace of the book. If you are somebody who's interested in historical fiction, and that too like historical fiction that is bordering more on the real factual stuff and less on fiction, then by all means check this book out. It's a short read, and I don't think it's expensive, so you will not lose like a lot of money even if you don't like it. And now quickly moving on, because I have already rambled a lot. The fourth book on my list is Zubani. Now, this is a book, this one here, right here. So, this is a collection, a very thin read again, as you can see. This is a collection of short poetic musings and contemplations, which are written in a mix of Hindi and Urdu. Now, the thing that will appeal to millennials is that the book is written in the Roman script, so it's not the Devanagari script, but that was something that I did not like. But apart from that, this book talks about love and the beauty of love, the joy of love, but also the pain and the heartbreak that you find in love, the pain of death, and the tragic consequences of death, the tragic permanence of it. But at the same time, this book also talks about some very important, relevant in today's world concepts like self love, accepting the not so good parts of your life, because we just can't live in a bohemian world. We just can't afford to see everything through a rose tinted glass. So that's what this book teaches you. It teaches you self love, it teaches you acceptance, it teaches you healing. And yeah, I enjoyed this book. I had a great time reading it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book is The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. Now, this is a book that I picked up on my Storytel. I listened to it as an audiobook, and this is like a contemporary romance but with a magical twist. So, we have this place in Georgia, this town in Georgia, which was founded by a very powerful warlord dynasty. Now, this dynasty, now they're settled in Wales in the United Kingdom, but every now and then they need to come back and recharge these ley lines, which runs the magic through the entire town. Now, this town has a mix of magical and non-magical people who exist together. Except that muggles, like to borrow a term from another world, muggles don't know that they're living with magical people. Now, this is the story which talks about this young witch who had fallen in love with this guy who belongs to the Wolof dynasty that founded the town. And 9 years ago, like they had to break up. Like this guy broke her heart, and while she was recovering from it, she was drunk, she had a lot of vodka in, but mistakenly she ends up cursing him, and the disastrous consequence of this curse will be felt only now in today's world. So this is a contemporary romance. It has a lot to do with romance. It has humor also, but at the same time, what I absolutely loved, is the description of this beautiful town. So this magical town, the way it's described, especially the part where it's Halloween and everybody is flocking to the town, like tourists from all over the country are flocking to this place. So reading that part was so beautiful, and I wanted to like really live that moment, really maybe go to that place, but I know it's not there, but still I have it in my mind, and I think that's an image I will always remember, I will always associate with this book. So yes, it was a feel good read to me, and I loved reading it. I gave it 4 stars. Guys, the next book that I have is this one, The Shadow on the Wall by Ruskin Bond. Now this is a hardbound. It's not a very lengthy read. In fact, it's a very short read. You can see the size of pages and the size, the formatting and the text and everything. It's a short read. It's a collection of 21 spooky stories. And by spooky, I mean stories which are not exactly like spooky and they will scare you. No. If you want to read the subtitle, so it says, My favorite stories of ghosts, spirits, and things that go bump in the night. All the stories which are there in the book are not new. Some of these are classic tales which have been included in a lot many collections before this one. So that means you have Susanna's Seven Husbands, which is the one which starred Priyanka Chopra in Sakhunma, and other classic tales like A Face in the Dark, The Chakrata Cat. So you have many of those, but you also have certain new editions, which is something that I actually loved. But at the same time, this is a book that has all those classic Bond ingredients. So you have a simple time, a less chaotic time, a less chaotic India, and you also have like a colonial hangover. So you have a lot of stories which talk of the British Raj and the people who lived back then and the ghosts they left behind after that. And yes, it's a collection that would definitely appeal to bond lovers. And just look at this, it's gorgeous. It's surely a collection worth having in your library. Also, guys, I forgot, I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book that I have is this one, Dead Air by B2C James. Now, this is also a book that I got as a paid project. This was sent to me by the author. So, this is essentially a murder mystery, a Indian thriller, and I loved reading it. Why, I'll tell you. So let's talk about the stories. Now there is this model, this absolutely stunning supermodel called Tanya Khanna, who gets murdered, who is brutally murdered in her apartment in a very posh society and with a lot of security around. And the entire flat in which she's murdered is full of blood and gore. But the only thing, there is no DNA evidence of the murder. Despite all the gore that surrounds the place, there is absolutely no DNA evidence. Now this single factor baffles everybody, including the police, journalists, and including everybody else whose stakes are in the story. Now there is this guy called Vikram Shetty, who's an investigative journalist who once had a great career, but now his career is in the downfall because of a personal reason. Now Vikram Shetty is given the task to cover this story, and he sets about finding the truth. The plot is very complex, the characters are awesome, everything is full of intrigue and shrouded in mystery, and it's a well written book, and I really enjoyed it. I did not expect much looking at the cover, but once I was done reading the book, I was so happy that I had picked it up, because after a long time, I came across a beautifully written, like a brilliantly written crime fiction. The next book, that is book number 8, is The Disappearing Act by Kathleen Stedman. Now, this is again a book that I picked up on Storytel. I was browsing on Storytel, I found the book appealing, I found the blurb interesting, and I sat down to listen it. So, this is the story of this London actress, a British actress who is just about to win the BAFTA. But there's already this buzz around that she will be winning the BAFTA, and that's the reason she is getting a lot of interest from Hollywood. So she travels to LA and is there for the pilot season, where she's auditioning for a lot of roles, including some really big names. But it is during one of these auditions that she meets a girl called Emily. Now, Emily is also an aspiring actress. She's also out there to audition for different roles. The thing that happens here is that just after the meeting between this London actress, this British actress, and Emily disappears. And after some time, there comes another girl who is pretending to be Emily. This British actress, she definitely knows that Emily is not the one who she's claiming to be. This is somebody else. This is surely not Emily. And despite her better wisdom, despite her brain telling her not to get into this mess, she anyhow gets into this mess. She tries to find answers, and that acquaints her with danger. Danger should definitely be not going towards. This again is a book that is written very well. The mystery is really deep, and you have a lot of twists, and everything comes together in the end like really well. And it's an intriguing read. I think the best takeaway from the book was the Hollywood behind the scenes. So you actually get to know what Hollywood is like, and as a reader, you are acquainted with the challenges that aspiring actors or struggling actors face in Hollywood. So that part of the book was especially appealing to me. Now, the next book, which is book number 9, I have to see which one it is. Yes, it's the Granddaughter Project by Shaheen Chishti. Now, this is again, I think I've spoken about this book on my Instagram. I don't remember. I think I did, but I again forgot. So, this is the story of this girl called Maya, who's sent on a quest by her grandmother Kamla. Maya is a British Indian who lives in the UK, but now she's come to India, and she has to find this tree. So, she has to go into this village, and she has to find a tree in the middle of nowhere, and in that tree, she finds 3 letters. Now, 3 letters, one of which is addressed to Maya herself, and 2 others that she has to give to the people they are addressed to. So, one is addressed to this woman called Rebecca, who lives in New York, and the other one is addressed to this woman called Tanya. It is through these letters that Maya understands the story of 3 grandmothers, her grandmother and 2 of her friends. And these all 3 grandmothers come from different racial backgrounds, from different parts of the world. They have experienced different kind of things in life, and they acquaint their granddaughters with their story, the story of hardships that women have to go through, and the story of their life. So this is again a women-centric read, and it's a kind of historical fiction template that I've always enjoyed. Like any day, talk to me about women, talk to me about the tragedy of their lives, talk to me about loss, pain. So it's a beautiful read. I would certainly ask you to read it, because it's just beautiful. It's so much, and yet it's I don't know how to describe it, but just go and read it. If you're into historical fiction, you will certainly not never regret it. Go and check it out. The next book that I read after this, I think it was a story. Okay, let me just confirm. Right. The next book that I picked up was on Storytel. This was again a book that I was like browsing and I just came across and I found it very interesting. I found the blurb interesting. I was looking for a young adult fiction but also a thriller at the same time. So this combined both of them and I ended up downloading it and listening to it. So this is I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kirk Crick. Kirk Crick. Kit Frick. Oh my god. Okay. I Killed Zoe Spanos, that's right, by Kit Frick. Sorry, I'm butchering the name, I butchered the name. Kit Frick is the author's name. So this is the story of this girl called Anna who lands up a nannying job, a summer nanny job, with this very influential and very rich family in the Hamptons. Now, Hamptons is the place which is just outside of New York and it's supposed to be a very rich and affluent neighborhood and more like a town. And when she goes there, she discovers that she bears a striking and eerily similar resemblance to this girl called Zoe Spanos, who went missing around the new year. So now it's been what? It's been 6 months, and people still haven't forgotten Zoe because everybody is wondering what happened to her, where did she go? She was never a person who could just leave. So people know that there's something wrong, but nobody has answers. Imagine at that time where everybody knows everybody, in a town where everybody knows everybody, arrives Anna with similar looks. People start confusing her with Zoe, and maybe because of that resemblance, Anna starts digging for information on Zoe. She starts uncovering information. She starts asking people about her. And while she's going through all this stuff, while she's digging for information, she realizes somewhere deep down in her mind, maybe at in the dark recesses of her mind, she has that understanding that she knows what happened to Zoe. Maybe there is a connection that is there between Anna and Zoe, and she knows, literally knows what happened to her. So this is that. Not gonna tell you anything more than that, but the only thing that I want to mention here is that there is also this true crime podcast which takes place, and the way it's narrated, because I listened to the audiobook. So that crime podcast is a different experience altogether. But I remember it was beautifully done. Like beautifully is not the right word, but it was done very alluringly. Like it captivated you, and you felt that pain with which the what was her name? Martina Green was talking about Zoe, and she was uncovering all these clues. So that was very very real. It made the book all the more real, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Do check it out if you're into young adult fiction and also thrillers, young adult murder mystery. This is the book to go to. So guys, the next and the last book is also a book that I've actually found on Storytel, but just half an hour into the book and I was like, no, I have to go and buy this book. So I went online, I went to Amazon, I saw the prices and I discovered that it's not really that expensive. It was somewhere around 300, I think 330 or 340. Affordable, yes. So I went ahead and bought myself a copy. This is Tokyo Ever After by Emi Kojin. Now this is a book that I also spoke about in my video, Buzz Books that I can't keep come about or something like that. Like I was talking about all the books that I'm excited for, which are soon coming out or which have come out. So something like that, that video. I spoke about this book and I'm so happy that I read it because this was like really the best book of December. It made my day, it made my month, it kind of made my year. Name, okay, that will be too much, but yeah, it definitely made my reading month of December. So this is the story of this girl called Izumi Tanaka. Now, Izumi's story starts in a very Princess Diary kind of way, like you know Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, that kind of way. But that's where the similarities end because Izumi is a girl. She's a Japanese American. She's essentially basically Japanese, but she lives in America along with her mom. So she's basically essentially American. She lives in this small town in California called Mount Shasta. She is a regular teenager. She has a boring, like regular teenage life until one day when everything changes. How? Because until now, Izumi had no clue who her dad is, who her father is, but a chance event, like a few chance events, lead her to unravel the identity of her father, and that's when she realizes who exactly he is. He is the crown prince of Japan. Izumi's father also had no idea about Izumi's existence, but now that this has been uncovered, things happen and now Izumi is in Japan trying to find a way to bridge that gap. Because here's the thing, when she was in America, she wasn't American enough, but now she's in Japan and she's not Japanese enough. So it is for her to bridge this gap. It is her journey and she has to figure a way out to do this. And in the process, she will meet conniving cousins, she will meet people who literally hate her, who don't want her there, and she will also meet a very very handsome guy. So enough of my blabbering, go and read this book. I loved it. So this, guys, is my reading wrap up. I read 11 books in the month of December. Tell me all about the books that you read in the month of December. Which was your favorite read? And let's get chatting in the comments. And also, guys, given the current situation with the coronavirus pandemic, with the Omicron, please stay safe, please stay indoors, wear your mask at all times, and just stay safe, guys. Take care of your family, stay safe. And I really hope, like, from the bottom of my heart, that you have a great reading year, a very very safe year this year, 2022. Also, guys, I want to tell you that I do share a lot of my reading updates on Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please do. I will leave a link to my profile down below, and also somewhere here, probably here. So go and check it out, follow me there, and you will be updated with all the wonderful reading that I'm doing. And I also ask a lot of questions, so please help me out, help a genuine reader out. And like I told you, I will see you very very soon. Bye.